Shalom. I hope you're doing very, very well. Welcome back. It feels like it's been a minute, hasn't it? Let's turn to Matthew 5, verses 33 through 37. We're going to continue breaking down the Sermon on the Mount. Before we bust into it, you ever made a promise? Right? We all make promises. You know, people, as people of this faith, of this walk, we hold ourselves to a certain level, right? You have to be this tall to ride this ride. There's certain principles and guidelines set before us in His Word that kind of directs our walk, correct? And from time to time, we make promises, and we keep our word, and we follow through with those things, right? Well, remember that one time? Remember that one time, maybe not too long ago? That the whole thing just kind of... What does our Messiah say about these things? Right? Because He is our King, He is our shepherd, He is our rock. It holds us together. I think there's some wise words here in His sermon that we should definitely take a look at. So, verses 33 through 37 of Matthew 5, and that's definitely not going to be all of it. Again, you heard that it was said to those of old, "You shall not swear falsely, but shall perform your oaths to Yahweh." Folks, let's open that all up, right? There's not a whole lot there, but there's kind of a whole lot there. That is a quote from Leviticus. "Do not steal. Do not lie. Do not deceive one another. And do not swear falsely by my name, and so profane the name of your Elohim. I am Yahweh." Well, that's pretty much, gaveled down, right? Did I say that right? It's not like, it's more like, there's some more context of this, right? He says, "Do not swear falsely by my name, or you shall profane me." Let's continue with Deuteronomy. Let's go to Deuteronomy 23. "When you make a vow to Yahweh, your Elohim, do not delay to pay it. For Yahweh your Elohim is certainly requiring it of you, and it shall be sin in you." Well, of course, because you're making a binding agreement. That if you break that the agreement becomes law. Okay? And... well, what does John say? John says the breaking of law is the definition of sin. So when you break your promise to Him, well, you just transgressed the law. But when you abstain from vowing, it is not sin in you. And we'll recognize that as we continue with His Sermon on the Mount. He says it is better for you not to. Well, that's another quote out of Deuteronomy, the law of Moses. "But when you abstain from vowing, it is not sin in you." Let's continue. "That which has gone from your lips you shall guard and do, for you voluntarily vowed to Yahweh your Elohim what you have promised with your mouth. He shall judge every word and deed," right, in our lives here on this plane. Well, whatever that you have promised with your mouth. You keep your word, right? You keep your word. And it really hurts us if for some reason that falls through. Let's turn to Exodus, if we may. Shemoth 20. Let's go to verse 7. You do not bring the name of Yahweh your Elohim to naught. For Yahweh does not leave one unpunished who brings his name to naught. Well, why are we tying that in? Well, if you remember back in Leviticus, when we just read that, you do not swear falsely by my name, and so to profane it. So, to make an oath, and to break the oath, a binding covenant contract with your lips, which you are to be judged upon, is, dare I say, taking his name in vain. Let's go to Numbers. Let's go to Numbers 30 and just have a read, There's a lot to be said in this chapter concerning vows and promises. This is the word which Yahweh has commanded. When a man vows a vow to Yahweh, or swears an oath to bind himself by some agreement, he does not break his word. He does according to all that comes out of his mouth. Or, if a woman vows a vow to Yahweh, and binds herself by some agreement while in her father's house in her youth, and her father hears her vow and the agreement by which she has bound herself, and her father has kept silent towards her, then her vow shall stand, and every agreement which she has bound herself stands. But the Torah is widely known for this. Caveat, but if your father forbids her on the day that he hears, then none of her words nor her agreements by which she has bound herself stands. And Yahweh pardons her because her father has forbidden her. So, and then the same applies to a husband. You see, but if her husband forbids her on the day that he hears it, then he has nullified her vow which she has vowed. So there's definitely a placement here within the marriage arrangement, or daughter and father in the same household, which you can see that in Genesis. If you turn all the way back to, I believe it's 3, the fall of man, there's a curse put on, well, I don't know if I want to call it a curse, but there's definitely, he shall rule over you. I'm talking to a woman. That's still very valid at this point, right? Should be forever because it's our instructions. But any vow of a widow or a divorced woman by which she has bound herself stands against her. Every vow and every binding oath to afflict her being, let her husband confirm it, or let her husband nullify it. Let me check this one out. But if her husband is altogether silent at her from day to day, then he confirms all her vows, or all the agreements that bind her. But if he nullifies them after he has heard, then he shall bear her crookedness. So, taking all those things into account, it's a very serious thing to bind yourself by an agreement, because by then you, like I said before, it's a bit of a covenant that you are to keep. I don't even want to go into what entails of breaking a covenant. I mean, it's in there. Let's continue on. But I say to you, do not swear vainly Some of your publications might not say vainly. This one does. This is it's taking from the Shem Tov texts include vainly, a Hebrew word shah. I say to you, do not swear at all, neither by the heaven, because it is Elohim's throne, nor by the earth, for it is his footstool. That's another quote. Let's turn over to Yeshiyahu, Isaiah 66. Thus said Yahweh, the heavens are my throne, and the earth is my footstool. Where is this house that you build for me? And where is this place of my rest? And all these my hand has made, and all these that exist. Yet to such a one I look, on him who is poor and bruised of spirit, and who trembles at my word. All things underneath him, right? Yes. So it says to not swear to any of that. It says to not swear at all. I'm not talking about cursing. We shouldn't be cursing either. That is a vulgar language coming out of our mouth to be judged later on, correct? But to swear, promise, for you to keep something, a binding contract again. I know I keep pounding that home, but we got to get that. For everything is his. From the earth to the heavens, everything is his. Nor by Jerusalem, for it is the city of the great sovereign. Let's go to Psalms 48. 48's really good. Let's have a read. Great is Yahweh, and greatly to be praised. In the city of our Elohim, his set-apart mountain. Beautiful on high, the joy of all the earth, is Mount Zion on the sides of the north, the city of the great sovereign. Elohim is in her citadels. He is known as her refuge. For look, the sovereigns met. They passed by together. They saw, so they marveled. They were alarmed. They hastened away. Trembling took hold of them there, pain as of a woman in labor. With an east wind you break the ships of Tarshish. As we have heard, so we have seen, in the city of Yahweh of hosts, the city of our Elohim. Elohim establishes her forever. Selah. We have thought, O Elohim, of your loving commitment in the midst of your Hakal, the temple. According to your name, O Elohim, so is your praise to the ends of the earth. Your right hand is filled with righteousness. Let Mount Zion rejoice. Let the daughters of Judah exult. Because your right rulings walk about Zion and go all around her. Count her towers. Set your heart upon her rampart. Go through her citadels, so that your report is to the coming generation. For this, Elohim is our Elohim, forever and ever. He himself leads us, even to death. So, to swear upon the city of the great sovereign would be well, I would imagine that would be quite the offense if broken. Nor swear by your head, because you are not able to make one hair white or black. Let's talk about hair. Let's turn to Luke. Are not 5 sparrows sold for 2 copper coins? And not one of them is forgotten by our Elohim. So, if he makes everything, he breathes the breath of life into all of creation, I believe that he knows just about everything that there is about that one little thing, isn't it? Let's continue. But even the hairs on your head have all been numbered. Do not fear. You are worth more than many sparrows. He knows every inch of us, even down to our thoughts and our heart. So I would imagine that making an oath, swearing by your own head, I think he already knows if you're capable of keeping that yet or not. But let your word, yes, be simply yes. Your publication might say yea, yea and nay, right? But let your word yes be yes, and your no be no. And what goes beyond these is from the wicked one. Let's turn, there's a couple of verses here. Let's turn to Matthew 13. When anyone hears the word of the reign and does not understand it, then the wicked one comes and snatches away what was sown in the heart. This is that sown by the wayside. Much to be said with the parable of the sower, but one could say that you made a promise within your heart. Proverbs say, be careful of that, because the heart can be very treacherous when compared to discernment in the mind. So anything sown in the heart, the wicked one loves to come and snatch that away with his influence. Right? Matthew 7:26. I tie that together to say this. Anyone who hears these words of mine, and this is his closing statement of this whole entire speech, but we'll get more in this later. But just on this one verse, anyone who hears these words of mine and does not do them shall be like a foolish man who builds his house on the sand. Well, sand isn't very sturdy. Sand likes to sink things in it. And then also, sand is not very applicable of a planting soil. It doesn't have very many nutrients. It's got a lot of minerals, perhaps, but nutrients, not so much. So, like the seed that withered away because it wasn't rooted in firm soil, much to be like a house that falls into the sand via not built on a sturdy foundation. Let's turn to James 5:12. But above all, my brothers, do not swear, either by the heaven or by the earth, or with any other oath. But let your yes be yes, and your no, no, lest you fall into judgment. So what is he really saying here? There's nothing inherently wrong with binding yourself with an oath, so long as you keep it. With haste, too, right? Earnest haste. Because a binding oath, it's definitely a contract, and it's a contract with the Most High via the words that are coming out of your mouth, which you are to be judged upon. So, lest you fall into judgment. This judgment is law. Let's turn, what does John say? John says that transgression of the law is sin, right? Well, if you make up your own law via your own words coming out of your mouth, 1 John 5 says this as well. We know that everyone having been born of Elohim does not sin. But the one having been born of Elohim guards himself, and the wicked does not touch him. So, to turn back to hit the sermon really quick, but let your word yes be yes, and your no be no. And what goes beyond these is from the wicked one. But the one having been born of Elohim guards himself, and the wicked one does not touch him. Much to think about with that, isn't there? So, really the take home of all this is err on the safe side, and just don't load yourself up with a heavy burdened contract of promises and words that you can't keep. Don't make your mouth cash a check that you can't cash, or you might bounce. Anyways, I hope you've been very, very well. Much love to everybody, and may our discernment be wise throughout our walks, and may we look to his words and dive deep into these matters. Right? I love you all. I shall be back very, very soon with more of these breakdowns. There's only a few left. Shalom.